All right. So you have been in the Clean Food Dirty Girl community for a little bit. So can you tell me, just like, when did you start? What prompted you to start eating better? When did it happen?
Yeah, so kind of a little bit of a background. I have been trying to probably lose weight for about 8 to 10 years. I grew up as a gymnast. I weighed about like 90 to 100 pounds all through high school and college. And then when I stopped gymnastics, the weight came on very quickly. So I met my husband about 5 years ago. And when we first started dating, we used to go out to lunch because we worked together every single day. So the pounds started packing on. So I've been tried probably every diet under the sun. And I hated all of them. I felt miserable. My cravings didn't go away. I didn't like the foods I was eating. So I had joined a gym back in September. This was like a boot camp, and they have a very family-esque motto. And they offered in January for me to go to a health seminar. Now, this wasn't a seminar just about plant-based eating. It was actually just talking about acidic foods versus alkaline foods and disease. And disease can't live when you're, and I don't know how much medical profession there was to that talk, but what it did was it made me start looking at the foods I was eating. So I tried to eat just an alkaline diet, which, by the way, is nothing but dry, green vegetables with no flavor. That did not last long. But I decided to, I started doing some research online, and I came across Dr. Furman, and I read Eat to Live and was completely blown away. I watched Forks Over Knives. So I started plant-based eating at the end of January. So I've been doing it about 6 months now. My husband is fully on board now. He was not on board when we first started. But we watched all of the documentaries. We watched Forks Over Knives. We watched What the Health. We watched Vegucated. And everyone just opened our eyes even more to how your body is made to eat this way. And I've been so happy with eating this way. I don't feel deprived. I'm not hungry. I have my slip-ups every once in a while, which is no big deal because I can get right back on track.
So it's been a fairly new thing for you guys then, for both of you.
It is.
Which is awesome that he's on board too, because that always makes it just a little bit easier. So before you found this way of eating, you said that you'd been like on a lot of diets and stuff like that. So you probably did like the low carb diet, high protein diet, South Beach, like all of those traditional or all of those diets. So can you just name a few of the diets that you were on? Because I know there's some that are pretty out there and pretty crazy. There's some that are pretty standard. And I know that so many people can relate because so many people who find us, that's always their first thing is I've tried every diet out there and I'm so disheartened that if I do lose weight, it always just comes back. So what were some of the diets that you tried?
I've tried Weight Watchers. I did that for on and off. Like I did those a few different times. And what would happen was I lost the weight. I was miserable the whole time I was losing the weight. And the minute I was done with the diet, it come back. The one that worked the most for me. So, I got married 2 years ago and my gym does a 6-week weight loss program. And it's very much all about macros and, the first week is cut all the carbs. And I was really successful doing that. And I hated every bit of the food. My dad is a huge Atkins person and it drives me nuts because he has so many medical issues and it's only making them worse. So he has multiple kidney stones pretty much all the time. And I know that if he would eat less meat, those would go away. So when I started eating this way, I was very preachy, which I'm sure that a lot of people are. I have learned to be a little bit less preachy about what I'm eating and just give advice when people ask me for advice. But so like I said, I did Weight Watchers, I did Atkins, I didn't do like the South Beach diet, but pretty much it was on and off with the low carb type eating. And just calorie restriction was the big one. So I was using those apps where you have to count every calorie and it was exhausting.
And time consuming too.
very time consuming. I work in a pretty demanding field. I work in a retailer in their e-commerce department, and I probably work, my work hours fluctuate, but I can work up to 80 hours a week. And for me to do that and remember to do that is just impossible for me.
Yeah. It's such a waste of time. And I think that so many people are so programmed to do that and to count, if they're not, counting the macros, the carbs, the fat, the protein, the calories. And when people realize that they don't actually have to do that, it's almost like they just can't believe it, and they don't know how to eat without doing that. And that's the really scary thing. And it's like, what happens is people get so disconnected from their body and what their body is telling them.
What I always find to be so interesting is that people automatically assume you're healthy if you're losing weight. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel healthy. So I suffered from multiple medical things going on. They were pretty minor, but I had acid reflux pretty much my entire adult life. Mm-hmm. That was never under control. I was on Prilosec for the last 8 years, which they don't actually recommend you to be on that medication for longer than 90 days because it starts leaching calcium from your bones.
Shit.
So yeah, every time I would go off of it, even for a day, instantly the heartburn would come back. Mm. And so when I started eating this way, I actually stopped that medication after just a couple of weeks, and I have never had to touch it again. I've never had any heartburn or anything like that. All my stomach issues, I had chronic stomach problems, with digestive issues. Mm-hmm. My husband as well. He constantly was having issues with his stomach. We both are completely cured of any of those things.
That's so awesome. And so many people have acid reflux and have digestive issues. And I wanted to touch, I'm glad that you brought that up because I knew that about you. And it's this thing that people just think that they just have to live with, and it's these, but that is so amazing that you were able to get off from it, and so fast. You were on it for 8 weeks, and then it took 2 weeks to get off. 8 years, and then you were on it for, off of it in 2 weeks. It's amazing.
Yeah. So both my parents are still on theirs. So I'm trialing. My mom is actually probably reduced some of hers because she's been pretty plant-based, and I got her to join as well. But my dad is one of those hurdles that we're trying to get through right now.
I understand. I get it. So the guys are always a little bit more tricky. It's usually the females that will get on board and kick their dads or husbands or boyfriends' butts into doing it. It's so common. But you know what? The thing is that you're doing the right thing. And just by him seeing you make these changes and feeling awesome and getting all these great benefits that you've had, he'll eventually come around. Maybe. And maybe he won't. And that's okay too. Yeah. Just got to kind of leave that up to him. So, okay. So that's great. So how were you raised? Were you raised on a pretty typical standard American type of diet?
I was a very picky eater. Mm-hmm. My mother is amazed that I am eating all of these foods.
So did that carry into adulthood as well?
Yes. Yep. My staples were chicken nuggets and French fries and burgers, and pretty much anything that was a vegetable didn't usually make it on my plate. I didn't like vegetables. I actually rarely ate fruit. I was a big sugar addict. It comes and goes here still, but for the most part, I find my sweet tooth to be with the fruit. And I would say that it took about 2 weeks of eating this way that my taste buds really started to change. And now there's pretty much nothing that I won't eat. I still can't really eat cucumbers for some reason, but everything else I love.
That's
so
a
there's
strange
always a food here and there.
It's so
I know that it's a weird
neutral
one.
of a vegetable too, but hey, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love pickles, but I don't like cucumbers.
So that's interesting. And I'm glad that you brought that up because there's a lot of people who are new to this way of eating who join our private Facebook group or who join the meal plans. And they're like, the food, I see everybody raving about the food, but I'm just not, it's not jiving with me yet. And then it takes about 2 weeks and then people are like, oh, okay, I'm actually starting to like salad. So there is definitely that transition of getting your taste buds kind of familiar with this eating and reprogramming what they find delicious because you're no longer bombarded with those really overstimulating foods full of, fat, sugar, and salt.
Yeah, so I work in an office where I sit next to a candy bowl all day long. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you those first 10 days of eating this way was miserable because all I did was want to eat a piece of candy. Mm-hmm. And I'm not kidding, it was like the 11th day, I realized I didn't want that candy anymore. That was a huge feat for me. I did not need to go over to the candy bowl. I did not need to eat that sugar. Mm-hmm. And every time that it starts to creep back in, if I'm kind of lax and we go out to eat, I can tell that I start to get those cravings back almost immediately. So I have to kind of clean myself out and make sure that I get off of that stuff.
Isn't that interesting? And that's so true, because it's like, even if you're eating something that's not sweet or not candy, but just like garbage, it will trigger those cravings for sweets, you know? So It's really interesting how that's all connected. So having your cravings kind of disappear for junky food, except for sugar sometimes. And I get it. I'm the same way. I'll have my little rendezvous with sugar, especially when it's like right before I get my period. I'm like, give me some chocolate or die.
Yeah, I go through waves where I'm either like super hungry and I can't stop eating, or I'm not that hungry, and it's always around all those hormones.
Yes, very, very common. So, but not having those cravings in general, except for those couple of times, I mean, that's a big thing. And getting off of your acid reflux medication, that's a really big thing.
That was huge. Yeah.
So, like, how would you describe, like, somebody who is new to this way of eating? I guess, because let's just pretend somebody is brand new and watching this video. Tell them what you eat now. So what makes up your diet? I mean, I obviously know, because I know that you get the meal plans. But why don't you explain that?
Yeah. So every day for breakfast, I have a really healthy green smoothie where about, 70 to 80% of it is just dark leafy greens. I put some flaxseed in there, and I add some chia seeds and a little bit of hemp powder just to give it a little bit of protein in there, and then some frozen berries and water. And I eat that every day for breakfast, and that keeps me satisfied between 7 a.m. and 11:30 when it's around lunchtime. Mm-hmm. So then for lunch, it's either leftovers from one of the meal plans, or something that we really like to do that's easy is I make a big batch of rice and a big batch of beans. And then I cut up a bunch of different vegetables, and we just make these rice bean bowls and top it with nice fresh salsa that's usually homemade. That's our go-to, and it's simple and quick every week. Mm-hmm. And then I do the meal plans for dinner. Not every week. I don't have always the time to do the meal plans during the week, but I really do try to have some staples in my house, like black bean, stuffed potatoes. I really try to incorporate beans in every lunch and dinner. I found that if I don't, I am getting hungry around that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame. Mm-hmm. So making sure I have that protein in there, making sure I have the fiber from the beans is kind of important. I can't just do a salad for lunch. I'll do like a salad and something else that usually has a grain or a bean to it. Mm-hmm. So I've learned what my body needs. Mm-hmm. Another thing I do is I like to double batch, and then I like to freeze some things. And what's funny is my husband brings these foods to work, and he works on a production line in a brewery. Uh-huh. And all of his coworkers keep asking him, "Ooh, can I have that recipe? Ooh, that looks really good. You don't eat meat? You don't eat cheese?" So confused, because everything that he brings to work looks amazing. And I kind of how I like to bring up the topic with people is I want them to see what I don't have to deprive myself of, mm-hmm. and how happy I am eating these foods before I kind of strike up that conversation. Mm-hmm. It was a big topic when I first started, because my coworkers had seen me do so many different diets, and their immediate response every time I was bringing these foods to work is, "Oh, you can't eat this." If they bring in donuts, and I'm like, "Well, I don't want to eat that," and that accusatory tone and the comments have actually diminished, and people pretty much just leave my food choices to myself. But it was funny. Just today, I was talking to a coworker, and he goes, "Hey, I'm watching a documentary that you might know about. It's called What the Health?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And then he orders a cheeseburger. I was like, "Okay, well, we're slowly working on it."
Baby steps. But he knows where to go when he's ready to make a change. And that's what I always tell people. Yeah. As long as people know where to go, then you just leave that door open, and he'll eventually ask questions and start to be curious, I think, especially after he watches that. It's a really great film. So that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you found what works for you, and you're doing really well. You're doing awesome. And so does it feel like a diet to you, since you've been on so many diets? How does this way of eating feel, just even emotionally and mentally, compared to, dieting?
No, I remember even just the first week, I go, I have never been able to eat this much food and lose weight. I was just shocked because what I was used to was eating a dry piece of chicken with a little tiny bit of vegetables next to it with nothing on it, maybe some salt and pepper. And it was disgusting. And I tried to eat that like 4 days in a row and was miserable. With this, there's so many different options. Everyone's like, oh, what can you eat? I'm like, oh, I'll tell you what I can eat. There are so many options you can eat.
Yeah.
New foods to try, new cuisine. So, finding taste from other countries that I didn't even know that I liked. But what was funny was I tell people now, I go, yeah, I used to eat meat every day. And when I took it out, I didn't actually miss meat. I realized that I've been eating meat all this time and didn't actually like the taste of it. And I haven't missed it once. Dairy was a lot harder. I suffer from chronic migraines, and I found out that cheese is a trigger for me. So I gave up cheese a long time ago. So that one was actually pretty easy. But I had the hardest time giving up yogurt. And I tried to find alternatives to yogurt, but when you look at the ingredients in those shelf yogurts, I didn't even try them. So
the vegan yogurts, you mean?
Yeah, those vegan yogurts, the coconut ones, they have so much crap in them.
They really do.
I have looked at possibly making my own yogurt, but that's a little out of my skill set right now. But I'm doing fine without it. So I don't miss it anymore. It was just that one was the one that took like a couple months to really try to get out of my system.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are those little things that take a little bit longer. And I think I get this question a lot, and it's like, well, what can I do instead of cheese? What can I do instead of yogurt? What can I do instead of cottage cheese? It'll be the same. And it's like, well, there's not really anything that's whole food plant-based anyways. I mean, there's vegan versions, but that doesn't mean that they're healthy. Yeah. But it's just that you have to, as you have to retrain your taste buds and your brain really to not want those foods and to crowd it out with good food. And eventually it does quit. Like when I transitioned, I missed cheese so much. But then once I went, like when I was vegan even, and I've talked about this before, but I've been vegetarian my whole life. I went vegan in 2008 and I ate a lot of vegan cheese. It wasn't until I really went whole food plant-based did I stop craving cheese. And now like I would never even think to order vegan cheese. If I'm like getting a pizza, I'll just have lots of extra veggies, lots of extra sauce and no cheese because I don't even like that taste, that texture anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is good for people who are new to this to know that you will eventually just not even want it anymore. And you just have to go through that phase of missing it for a little while and it'll change. It's just like anything else. It's just like drinking. If you quit drinking, if you quit smoking, if you quit any kind of bad habit, it will eventually lessen those urges and those cravings. So, yeah. All right. Talk about, a little bit of the other things that you kind of noticed once you started to make this change as far as like any like health things like cholesterol or anything else that you noticed since eating this way now since January, I guess.
Yeah. So I looked at my numbers back from last year because I have to get my numbers done for my work health insurance every year. And I don't remember the exact number, but I do remember that after only being plant-based for about 3 to 4 weeks, so I had my numbers redone this past February, my cholesterol had dropped in half. So I was like, in just 4 weeks of eating plant-based, it was amazing. And so I think I was above a total of 200 last year, and now it's way down. I don't remember the number either, but some other things that really changed too was my blood pressure. It was always hovering just above 120/80, which now doctors are saying is like pre-hypertensive, and they try to push the pills on you at that range, which I think is insane. Now mine's like 110/65, and that's on a stressful day. I actually don't know what I weigh right now because when I did the Drop It Like It's Hot challenge in April, and I realized after watching your video that I was a slave to the scale. And so I had my husband hide my scale, and I have not checked it since, which is awesome for me.
Awesome.
I was getting so obsessed, and every day it was up and down and fluctuations. And I was like, this isn't making me happy. This is making me miserable. I think I'm kind of hit a point where I probably won't lose much more weight. And I'm okay with that. I think that for the first time, like this past week, I went to a water park and I did not feel self-conscious in a bathing suit. And I'm still not what would you call like, you know, model skinny or anything, but I was so comfortable in my own skin. So something else that also happened was I have suffered from acne since actually I didn't suffer from it when I was a teenager. I started suffering from acne when I got older as an adult. And it wasn't terrible, but I always had at least 5 pimples on my face. It didn't matter what time of the month it was. And it was so frustrating. And when I went to plant-based eating, my skin completely cleared up. I still have the occasional around that time of the month where I get a couple, but besides that, my skin is beautiful. And
it is beautiful. I'm looking at it and it's just
you.
like flawless and glowing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that that's amazing about your confidence and feeling good in your skin, because I think that that is something that doesn't get enough attention when changing this way of eating, because it's not something that we even expect to happen. That's the strange part. Like, we expect to maybe have some more energy, or to, I don't know, some people expect to lose a little bit of weight, which, you know, happens and it can happen. But having that just peace of mind and peace in your body, it really happens. And it's so unexpected when that happens. And it's so beautiful. And it's something that no diet will ever, ever, ever help you achieve. In fact, diets kind of perpetuate the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. So something really resonated in your Drop It Like It's Hot video. You said, now think of this number, this goal weight that you have in your head. And then you go, where did that come from? And I really thought about it and I go, I don't know. I don't even know that's a possible number. And so I just it just really dawned on me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not even thinking about that number anymore. All I think about is feeling good, feeling healthy, feeling good in my clothes. I've actually had to change my entire wardrobe since eating this way, and continued to fit in my wardrobe, because I've done this before and have always gained the weight back, and then been like very sad. I was like, oh, I just bought all these new clothes and I don't fit in them. And and so I also, another thing that's been really cool is I work out 3 to 4 times a week, and I do a pretty intense workout. And I have never experienced this much energy during my workouts. And my recovery time, I don't get like that super soreness anymore that I used to get. So all the inflammation is gone. I might be sore for a day depending on the workout, but not very much. And it usually dissipates really quickly. I'm sleeping better at night. I'm staying a lot more alert at work. So I just started a new job. And so it's been taking a lot of stress and trying to get up to speed and working some extra hours. And I never feel that tired. But, you know, when 9 o'clock hits, I'm ready for bed and I can go to sleep really quickly, which is very interesting to me. And I don't need the 5 cups of coffee anymore during the day. I still have my 1 cup in the morning. And I think I do that out of habit more than I actually need it. So I've been trying to slowly lessen that every single day a little bit. So
that's awesome. And I know exactly what you mean about having a lot of energy, but then being able to go to sleep, because I'm the exact same way. It's like, I will have energy up until I go to bed, and I could stay up. Like, I don't get tired until I go to bed and read, and then I'll read and then I'll fall asleep. And and it drives Luann nuts, because it takes her a long time to go to sleep. And then she's kind of like a light sleeper, and I'll go to sleep in like 2 minutes. And I'll sleep so well, and I'll wake up feeling so energized, and then I won't get tired until I am in my bed again, then, you know, the next night reading. And so it's an amazing thing that happens, and your sleep is really like so much affected. And also, like, because I mean, it's not just food, but also coffee kind of fucks up your natural sleep cycles and and all of that stuff. I mean, that caffeine. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a huge thing. And I hear that a lot from people, like that their energy just went like way up, but yet they sleep better. So you'd think that would be like a contradiction, but it works really perfectly together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, it just sounds like you're doing amazing, and you've seen so many positive changes in such a short amount of time, I might add, because we're not going to put this up on the blog for a few weeks, but it's, you know, the last week in July right now. So it's been like 7 months for you. So within such a short amount of time, you've learned so much about your body, and just, it seems like it's been really life-changing, and that's amazing. And it's just going to keep getting better. And, unlike dieting, which is so short term and, like you said, just annoying and not satisfying.
Well, yeah, you said 7 weeks is a short time, but in my dieting world, that would have been a long time to have stuck to anything. Mm-hmm. And I've never been able to do something for more than 6 to 8 weeks at a time. And the fact that I can do this effortlessly and change my whole lifestyle around it has been awesome. And just finding like new and interesting ways to cook. My husband likes to help in the kitchen. And like I said, he's been super supportive and loves eating this way too. Not that he needed to lose a pound. He is as skinny as a rail and could eat for 6 people, which drives me crazy. But no, he raves about how much better he feels and how much he likes eating this way. And so I never forced this on him either, which is awesome. When we first started, he tried to eat, all the foods with me. But then when we go out to eat, he'd always order the normal. And now he actively will not eat. I don't think he's eaten meat since probably March. And he really does try to avoid the dairy, not all the time, but he realizes how much better he feels. And we both realize that if we eat something that isn't plant-based, how much crappy we feel. So just being aware immediately of oh yeah, now I don't feel very good. So I'm going to go back to the way I feel better. Yeah.
And those are great reminders. And I think for people who are maybe new to this or just kind of getting their footing, it's like, I see this a lot, and people will, if they eat something that's not plant-based, they'll end up beating themselves up and just feeling like shit and really, really giving themselves a hard time. And I always say, hey, look, that was a great learning curve. That was a great experience, because for most people, if you're eating really good and then you have some big heavy meal with meat or dairy or processed foods, you'll know, because your body's going to be like, nope, we're done with that. And then you're going to feel like shit. And then the next day you can be like, oh, okay, now I know what I have to do. So it's a great lesson. And so if anybody I hate to say fall off, because you're not on anything. But if people kind of eat something that's not plant-based, I always say, then awesome, then learn something and then move on, and don't give yourself any shit. Just love yourself through it. So it sounds like you're doing everything right, and you're healthy and happy. And what more could you ask for? It sounds like I'm just really excited for you and really happy for you that you found this way of eating. And thanks to that class back in January that got you started kind of on this path.
Exactly.
Because it always has to start somewhere, and you never know what's going to open that door. So that's great.
Well, and I just really want I just wanted to say thank you. You are so down to earth and so helpful in all of this. I'm on multiple Facebook groups, but yours is probably the only one that I read anymore, just because you don't have judgment, which is really nice, because we all aren't perfect, and everyone is going to go out and eat something that they really shouldn't, not that they shouldn't, that they don't want to eat. Or, if you're out there, you're traveling, things happen, and you just do the best you can. And it's all about forgiveness. And this month I've not been perfect, I'll be honest. Summer has creeped up on me. But it's, and it's always I'm okay, well, let's do better the rest of this day. That's the other thing that I feel I've gotten from you too, is move on, forgive yourself, and continue to keep looking at how great plants are. And then, the support of your group is just really helpful.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. I'm touched by that. And that's why I do what I do, because I want people to feel supported on this journey, and also have that place where they're not judged, regardless of where they're at on this journey, because everybody is in such a different place, but everybody still needs love and support, regardless of where they're at on that spectrum. So, and sometimes I do have to be a little watchdog in that group and take a little stand, but that's okay. I mean, we have almost 15,000 people in that group, so you have to expect a little bit of that, but I'm super happy that you're part of that amazing community, and that you get that, and that you don't beat yourself up, and that you have taken that away from all of this that we do, because I think that so many people who provide recipes in this way of eating miss that part of like, everybody is fucking human and nobody is perfect, and that is okay. Your perfection lies in your imperfection. And I just ate a chocolate chip cookie before I got on Skype with you, so there you go.
Nice. My father-in-law has suffered from diabetes for 25 years. And we have been slowly trying to get them to eat more and more plant-based foods. He finally retired this year, so I think he might be in a position to actually switch over. I bought him Dr. Furman's The End of Diabetes. I bought him the book, and then I bought him like the meal plan, the 21-day kickoff. So we're actually really hoping that after summer kind of winds down, that they might be willing to try it. But they're pretty ingrained in their Kraft singles and jarred pasta, and every meal has meat. So this one's going to be a tough one to crack.
Yes. Yeah. There's so many people out there who are like that. And I think just having people like you on and doing these videos, I'm hoping that helps, because you hear about all the great stuff that this diet does, and you can find recipes online, but when you actually see somebody and experience or hear about their experiences with it, it makes it very real, and also very relatable. And I think for a lot of people, they're just so ingrained, they just think, I couldn't do that. This is for somebody else. And to just let people know that, anybody can do this. It's going to take a little tweaking, but if you're open to it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the past two people that you've interviewed, and felt a little like when you asked me to interview, I was like, well, I'm pretty normal. I haven't cured any major diseases here, but
it's not even about that. Yep.
I know, but I actually think that this might be helpful for those people that aren't suffering from major diseases and are still trying to make the life change, to be like, there's just some normal people out here that are but they're still getting all the benefits.
Yeah.
So you may think you're normal, but when you actually start looking into it, all of those medications you're on, you don't have to be on them anymore. Mm-hmm. One thing that I forgot to mention is I have suffered from seasonal allergies my entire life. I'm on Zyrtec 24/7, and I stopped Zyrtec 4 months ago and have not had a single problem since. And I know they always say your allergies take longer to heal. Mm-hmm. Like it's not one of those things that you can take the medication off in like 10 days, but that I kind of forgot about that. And it just kind of like, just the last couple of weeks, I was like, wow, I've never been in this part of the summer when all this stuff is flying around and been comfortable outside. And it just really hit me like, I feel like everything is healing. My body is healing itself, and it is such an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You hit it on the head, because you're providing it the fuel it needs to do the job that it's supposed to do. And so many people think that my body is broken, or I just have this because it's genetics or because of this. And the fact is that no, if you feed it the right shit, then your body's going to work. I mean, for the most part, there's conditions out there and there's things out there that aren't, regardless of what you eat will happen. But for the most part, the things that so many people have to deal with every single day, like allergies, like acne, like the acid reflux, like this is all stuff that when it's not in your life anymore, you don't even realize like how bogged down you were with it, because you just are kind of free of it. So that's awesome. No more allergies. And I hear that it's so common. I mean, I don't think that I've heard of one person who follows this way of eating who has like seasonal allergies. I mean, it literally just disappears. And how much money are you saving from Zyrtec and all the other like crappy side effects that I'm sure were part of it?
Because the medical profession keeps deciding to take all these medications and make them over the counter. So then my insurance will no longer pay for them, and I have to pay for them out of pocket. So like my Prilosec alone was like, for a month's supply was like $50.
And that was for your reflux?
Yeah, so that was for the acid reflux. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was like I was spending $50 a month just for that alone. And the allergy medicine's right behind that cost too. Mm-hmm. So I would say on medication alone, I was spending, close to $100 a month, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of accepting that was going to be normal. And now I can put that money towards more food.
Exactly. Or organic food or whatever. Because
yes.
I mean, that's the other thing. Like a lot of people have this idea that eating this way is more expensive, but it's really not, because you're making all your own food from scratch and you're saving money on not only eating out, but on those medications, So
yeah.
Well,
once you get the staples in your pantry,
Yeah.
I found that my grocery bills are significantly less than they ever were.
Yeah.
If you add up between my old grocery bills plus all the eating out we did, and the fact that we don't do that as much anymore, I've really started to save a lot of money.
Yeah, and your health, and it's good for the environment, and it's good for the animals. It's like, there's not one thing that somebody could do that's as powerful as this for so many different areas of life, and not only our own life, but society and the world kind of as a whole. It's just, it's incredible. And every day I think about it, and every day I'm grateful that it's catching on, and that people are trying it out and testing it out and actually discovering what this can do. And you're one of them. So I really, really thank you for coming on and talking about your experiences and just your point of view with all this and some of your tips and tricks. I think it's going to be a fantastic piece for newbies and for people who've been eating this way for a long time. It's going to be really inspiring to get more people on board. So thank you again so much.
Thank you very much.